Forget the big cosmic events, Doctor Doom invasions, or multiversal crises. Some of the weirdest stuff that's ever happened to Spider-Man and Daredevil has happened right here, on the good old streets of New York City. While both of these heroes definitely share common ground, being that they were both primarily street-level heroes who happen to be located in New York, and who both have a strong sense of right and wrong. But let's face it, we all know that these two very different heroes aren't always the best of teammates. Daredevil is hot-headed and brooding, while Peter is often quippy and irresponsible. Yet despite their differences, these two have actually teamed up quite frequently over the years, and many of those team-ups have been pretty strange, to say the least. And with new developments happening in MCU, it would be fun to revisit some of the strangest moments that Spider-Man and Daredevil have shared together. So join us as we swing and flip through some of the weirdest Spider-Man and Daredevil moments you may have missed. Their earliest oddball meetings, Spider-Man and Daredevil actually first met in the pages of The Amazing Spider-Man number 168, back in 1977. In this story, Matt Murdock finds himself defending Peter Parker in court after the wall crawler was wrongfully accused of robbery. But this wouldn't be the last time that these two would butt heads. Actually, in their second team-up, Spider-Man ends up knocking Daredevil out cold during a battle against the Hobgoblin. As you can imagine, Matt isn't exactly thrilled about being decked by a fellow hero, but he does come to understand the situation. It would seem that even in their earliest appearances, there was already an established history between these two heroes. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that they've had plenty of chances to butt heads over the years, which has led to some pretty odd team-ups. One of the most bizarre early encounters between the two heroes takes place in The Amazing Spider-Man number 240. In this issue, Spider-Man and Daredevil end up switching bodies thanks to a special serum created by the villainous Mysterio. It's a pretty crazy concept and also one that would be revisited in the 2003 Spider-Man, the new animated series episode, Disordered Minds. But the story doesn't stop there. After switching bodies, Peter and Matt find themselves thrown into prison, where they have to make a daring escape and switch back before the authorities realize what's happening. This issue is not only wildly entertaining, but it also perfectly encapsulates the kind of bizarre situations that these characters seem to constantly find themselves in when they team up. But it's not the only time that they've switched bodies. That'll become clear later on in this list. But for now, we need to talk about how most of their strangest team-ups came to be, when villains forced their hand, and we got to see most of those strange team-ups that came to be, and it's usually because the villains of these stories were people that both characters had in common. Spider-Man and Daredevil both have extensive rogues galleries full of interesting and compelling characters, and sometimes those rogues galleries overlap. Take Wilson Fisk, aka Kingpin, for example. Kingpin is arguably one of the most powerful and dangerous villains that both Spider-Man and Daredevil have faced off against. And because of this, there have been several instances where the two heroes found themselves working together to bring down Fisk's criminal empire. In one memorable team-up, Spider-Man and Daredevil team up to take down Kingpin and his bodyguard, the Gladiator. In another instance, both heroes wind up teaming up with Luke Cage to take down Kingpin once and for all. But Kingpin isn't the only villain who's brought these two together. There was also the time that they were both framed for a crime by Mr. Fear, aka Percival, or the time that they had to work together to take down Bullseye, when he attempted to assassinate Matt Murdock. One of the strangest scenarios that arose from a common villain can be seen in the pages of Daredevil Volume 2, issue 336. In this story, Spider-Man and Daredevil find themselves trapped inside the mind of a serial killer known as the Blackout Man. The only way for them to escape is to confront the killer's alter ego, who just so happens to be a manifestation of one of Daredevil's old foes, the demon Mephisto. To make matters worse, the killer is a former friend of Harry Osborn, Peter's best friend. So now our heroes not only have to save each other's lives, but they also have to try and save the life of someone close to Spidey. All of these strange team-ups show just how intertwined the lives of these two heroes really are. Even when they aren't working together, they still find themselves affected by the same villains and events. And this has led to some truly bizarre situations over the years. But none are perhaps weirder than the one that we're about to discuss next, the body swap and other identity crises. Now let's discuss the body swap. Since that fateful day in issue 168 of The Amazing Spider-Man, there have been multiple occasions where Peter Parker and Matt Murdock have found themselves inhabiting the same body. Like we mentioned earlier, there was the time that they switched bodies thanks to Mysterio's special formula. But there was also the incident in The Amazing Spider-Man number 458, where Peter and Matt were magically fused into one body by the villain Arcade. Not only does this story highlight the close relationship that these two characters have, but it also showcases the comedic potential of such a strange situation. Just imagine the awkwardness of trying to fight crime, while sharing one body with another person whose alter ego you're also fighting alongside. But the body swap isn't the only identity crisis that's caused problems for these heroes. In fact, there was also the time that Matt Murdock found himself taking on the role of Peter Parker, when he became the new Spider-Man following the events of the 2004 Civil War storyline. Now if you're confused, that's completely understandable, but let us explain. When Tony Stark revealed the true identities of all the superheroes who opposed him in Civil War, Peter Parker decided to keep his identity a secret for the time being, so he faked his own death and left New York City. With Peter gone, Daredevil took it upon himself to carry on the legacy of Spider-Man. However, this didn't last for long, as Peter eventually returned and reclaimed his mantle. But not before Matt had already faced off against some of Spider-Man's enemies as the Wall Crawler. This storyline led to some truly unique character moments for both heroes as they grappled with the idea of who should be Spider-Man. But it also led to one of the strangest situations imaginable, having both heroes actively trying to stop each other. Imagine the confusion that must have caused among Spider-Man's villains. They probably questioned if the real Spider-Man had gotten powers to turn himself invisible or something. But the weirdness doesn't stop there. There was also the time that Mary Jane Watson found herself magically transported into the body of Elektra, Matt's on-again, off-again love interest. This led to an incredibly awkward conversation between MJ and Matt, as they were now inhabiting the same body. Talk about a strange predicament. But amidst all of these bizarre situations, there's one thing that remains constant: the undeniable bond that these two heroes share. Despite all of their differences, they always seem to find a way to work together and save the day. Beyond the obvious, now we want to hear from you. Are there any other weird Spider-Man and Daredevil team-ups that you'd like to see us discuss? Let us know in the comments below. Also, while you might be waiting for our next video, why not check out this other content we have for you today? It's pretty great, we promise. And with that said, until next time, stay nerdy.